So yeah, I just realized that I kind of missed a few details about how we came to Canada. So just to circle back, May 2019, my wife tells us we should go to Canada. When she tells me about the fact that she would be able to work full time, I would be able to work 20 hours per week, I immediately said yes. Immediately. So one thing you should know about my wife is she is really good with paperwork. That's pretty much her job. She worked in a bank, and physical paperwork, that's her thing, and doing research and finding out processes and how to submit documents. She's really good at that kind of thing. So yeah, she submitted the request for a few different colleges in Canada. I got accepted to two of them, one in Toronto, one in London, Ontario. Fanshawe College is where I eventually went. So yeah, we were accepted to Fanshawe College, and of course, once you get the acceptance letter at the time, and again, this process has changed. So the reason I circle back to this process is because this process is not so easy anymore, because people have decided that Canada has now taken in too many immigrants. So they have said, you don't have to be doing a master's degree for your spouse to have a full work permit while you're studying. I will share a bit about immigration, things that come to mind, but I'm not fully informed as to everything to do with that, because my strength is finances. My wife is actually the one who dealt with immigration related things. But of course, I was there, so I do know about our process. I'm not so sure about the current process and how it currently works. But some of our journey, I think, would still be relevant. So yes, we got the acceptance letter. That acceptance letter then allowed us to apply for a study permit. And of course, we did at the time, it would have been a 2-year study permit. And that study permit, if you complete your program, it would have at that time led you to a situation where you would have been eligible for a 3-year postgraduate work permit, meaning after you're done with your studies for the 2 years, both yourself now, the person who was a student, would be eligible for a 3-year work permit. At the time, if you did a 1-year diploma, you would only be eligible for a 1-year postgraduate work permit. The other issue with that work permit is that only yourself, the student, or in my case, myself, the student, would be eligible for that postgraduate work permit. My wife would not have been immediately eligible for the work permit after I was done with studies. However, if myself, the student, after I graduate, immediately within 3 months of graduation, because my wife, I graduated in April of 2021 in this case, by July of 2021, my wife's work permit would expire. And at that point, she could live in Canada, but she could not work legally in Canada. However, there was one way for me to get her to be eligible to work legally, and that would be for me to get what it would be considered a B-level or A-level job. These categories have now changed. They are no longer letters. I think they are now numbers, but I don't know which number corresponds with which letter from the old system. So a B-level job, and these jobs are the same, even though the categories are different. It would be up to me to, for example, get an accounting job, or a manager in a restaurant, or a welder, or a chef. These were considered skill level jobs. The jobs that we were doing at the time were like call center jobs, where we were doing customer service. Well, that was that's what my wife did, and you'll hear about that later. Those jobs did not qualify, so I would need after graduation to immediately get a skilled level job, and that would allow my wife to be eligible for a postgraduate work permit as well. You will hear, I don't want to stretch this out. It's not my intention to save answers to questions for future videos to try to encourage viewership. The only reason I cut these videos short is because long videos I think would be kind of boring. So just to let you know, I did get a B level job immediately upon graduation. I won't go into much detail about it, but I did, and my wife was eligible to work after I was done with school. So what I'm telling you is that we got very lucky. We were very blessed with our process, and you'll hear more about that later. And this will not be the same for everybody, especially now that the process has changed. So anyway, we applied for the work permit, for the study permit in June. By late July, it was approved. So by now, sorry, as I mentioned, you will get that sound because most of these videos will be recorded while I'm doing Uber deliveries. And that's the sound of a delivery coming in and me rejecting that delivery because it's not paying me enough money. Anyway, so by end of July, I was approved for the study permit, and I had the letter of acceptance from the school. So next, I resigned my job, and I sent my passport to be processed so that the study permit can be printed in my passport, and that was it. It came back 2 weeks later, and I ended up in Canada in the middle of August 2019. So that was the process. The way how I could have applied for my wife immediately when I was applying for my own, but we didn't. I was in Canada for the first few months, and then by October, after my daughter was born, I created a letter inviting my wife to join me, and that's how she got to take advantage of her work permit that she's eligible for because I am studying at the time. I wrote a letter saying I miss her, I want her here. She submitted that letter along with other documents. She got her work permit and she came here in January. And you'll hear more about that in future videos. So that was a process of how we got here, because I want to kind of focus on finances, but I am in Canada, so I think it's important to tell you how we got here, because especially the on the surface information that I have access to, because I'm not really an expert in that part. It's really my wife that did that part, but that was a process.